order. Tamala, I'm sorry, Delia, can you do roll call? Thank you so much. Present.
David Bruce,
Present.
Blake Garrett,
Present.
Cindy Jo Garrett, Francis Gomez, Kevin Knapp,
Here.
Patricia Lark, Carlos Reyna,
Here.
Nina Joe Saint,
Here.
Glenn Winningham.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum present. Any introductions?
Mr. Chairman, no, we don't have any introduction at this time.
Excellent. I'd like to approve make a motion to approve the minutes for the November 19th, 2015 advisory meeting. Can I have a motion?
Second that motion.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It may be appropriate in order to have a motion to
I'll make the
excuse the absence of Francis Gomez. She's not
Absolutely.
able to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I'd like to make a motion to excuse we have Pat Lark that's...
She will be on her way.
she will be
she's
here.
en route.
Excellent. And we are also missing Cindy.
Cindy Jo.
Is there anybody else?
This is Carlos Reyna. Cindy will be here
Outstanding.
about 11 o'clock,
Okay.
so it'll be in the afternoon. Okay.
And we should definitely take an opportunity to embarrass her as she arrives.
Oh,
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
told her we would.
We'll make sure we do that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse them for now.
Yeah, and embarrass, yes.
Excellent. Thank you. The item D is public comments. You know, public has the opportunity to come and comment. I actually have a couple of comments, and I guess we could start on those. I'd like to remind the public, if you do wish to speak, there's some forms in the entrance that you can fill out. You can hand them over to me or to Delia. You have 3 minutes, of course, to speak. I have a couple right now that have been turned in. If we could have Patrick Barrett come on up. Will be the first speaker. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I didn't know I had a time limitation. I would have adjusted this, so I'll have to make some adjustment. But I've prepared my comments in writing and submitted them, so you all should have access to them if you wish to read the entire thing. First of all, I want to thank all the members of the Advisory Commission for volunteering their time and efforts to provide the TDLR with industry input. I realize there's a considerable amount of sacrifice. We always did it. Any time-based curriculum, which is what we have in the current standards, is by its very nature flawed. What matters is performance, the ability of a driver education student to become a safer driver, one who drives collision-free. Because each person learns at her own pace, in her own way, and in her own environment, placing limitations of the length of a lesson or frequency of a lesson is purely arbitrary and does not allow for individual differences.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you very much. I would just make one statement and I'll be finished. And then if you would read the rest of my comments. I suggest that all the rules that are listed as must elements go from becoming absolute requirements to simply recommendations, unless they are really required in statute. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. I'd like to remind Mr. Barrett and everyone else, what we do is we'll recommend at the end of this meeting to place it in an agenda, and this way we can have more of a discussion the next time that we meet, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear.
We recommend later on this afternoon, the advisory committee will recommend to place this subject on the agenda if we decide, if we make that suggestion. And then it'll be placed in the agenda, and then hopefully on the next advisory meeting, we can discuss it. You'll have a little bit more opportunity to discuss the subject.
Thank you
I don't
very
want you to
much.
feel that we're not going to hear you. I really appreciate you mentioning it, sir.
I'm good with that.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Barrett. Very kind. Thank you. Our next public comment is on Marco Benavides. Who's next? Thank you.
Good morning. Nice to see most of you guys. So yeah, hi, good morning, y'all. I actually just have a quick question. regarding the parent-taught driver's ed packets that TDLR sends out. My question is, or rather an issue that I'm personally dealing with, my particular course was approved just a few months ago, so thanks for that. But the dilemma that I'm having is that I'm getting a lot of folks, a lot of parents that are calling and actually asking me, hey, is this course on the up and up? And I always ask, well, what do you mean? Well, we see you on the TDLNR website, but we don't see you on the hard copy that we received from TDLNR. In other words, the PTDE packet. And so my question is this. I'm wondering if the dilemma that I'm having is that I'm having to refer these folks to Carrie specifically. Sorry, Carrie, about that. But what happens is, they'll call and they'll ask and they'll say, hey, I see you on the site, but again, I don't see you on the hard copy. And in order for me to confirm that I am obviously an approved course, I have to get them to call in. And so not only is that creating a ton of call volume for y'all, but it creates a bit of an issue in terms of credibility for me. So my suggestion, if you would kindly consider it, is to possibly do away with the names on the hard copy altogether, because you have the approved courses on the website, so people, and that's updated pretty quickly. But the dilemma is that there's a lag, there's a delay between the hard copy getting updated and from the point that the site is updated. So it's not only creating issues for me, but anybody that has been approved that is not yet on the actual hard copy. So my suggestion, if you would consider it, is to just do away with the names, the approved course names altogether, and maybe include the URL for the specific courses that have been approved. Instead of people looking at the hard copy and saying, okay, well, there's 17 courses approved. There may be 27 courses that are approved, but they're not all showing. So that's really it. I just want to see if you would consider maybe doing away with the names altogether on the hard copy, and in turn putting the URL so that the folks can go directly to the site and see the most updated information.
Thank you, Marco. Any comments from the staff?
We will definitely take into consideration. I think to educate you a little bit, Eric, it's good to have you, and I saw that you looked well, I'm not going to say you looked directly at. I'm joking. So in this portion for public comment, it is the public's opportunity to talk to us, and so when you don't see us dialoguing back and forth and answering you, we can't under the public comment section. But what we can do under staff reports as we get there is we can talk about the process and belts that are in that group, so they're always trying to figure out ways that we can do things better. That's the overview of exec. You guys have worked with us, and we're really building a strong and trusting relationship, and I think trust is the key. The industry has done a great job, but there's always this specter of what's happening behind the scenes, what's taking place behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz stuff, all that stuff is driven it. I'm loving the fact that we're having these meetings, the transparency of the dialogue, the comments coming in. Mr. Barrett's comments were right on point. That's the stuff that we need to hear to kind of fine-tune our efforts and continue to make the rules more workable for just the working person. They shouldn't be workable for, no offense, Della and the other attorneys, but they shouldn't be workable for the person who has the best attorney on their staff. It should be somebody who's coming into the business straight out, and they can read the rules and understand what's expected of them and get the job done. Update on the driver's training safety transfer. The big news is TDLR, through the session when the bill was passed, HB 1786, most bills will have what they call a fiscal note attached to it. How much money do you need to run the program? And we finally got approval to use the money for the program. You're like, well, it's been here since. Give you the lay of the land for what we're expecting to do over the next couple of months. We're going to talk a little later on, but we want to have the next meeting, April 29th, to bring the committee back. In between this meeting and the next meeting, the committees will continue their work. From what dialogue comes from this meeting, you guys are going to hear comments from the other folks that weren't on the different work groups, and that's going to give you a little bit of guidance, make sure you're on the right path. I have a challenge for the groups as well that we're going to put out there. March through May, work groups are going to be cranking out their stuff. In between the April 29th and the June 24th meeting, we're going to pick it up, Mr. Chairman. We should have enough momentum coming out of this meeting to go into the April 29th meeting for one more sharpening of the knives And then at that June 24th meeting, the Rules Alignment Work Group will have done their work to bring everything together and bring to the industry and the world a copy that we want to propose for publication. That's a little bit ahead of where we want to be, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to get it out there for the world to see, because everyone is hearing, oh, the rules are going to change, the rules are going to change. Well, the change starts with the public comment process. We haven't changed anything yet. We're just laying the groundwork for making the changes. So when you see that June 24th meeting, that document is going to be the one that we put out there for the world to look at and start giving us feedback. July 1st, we're going to publish that to the Texas Register. Everyone who is subscribed to our listserv will be able to see it's out there. They'll be able to see how they can comment. They'll be able to see, oh my God, what are they thinking about doing to us? And then they can give us the good and the bad and the ugly on it. They can start giving us the feedback on that. And I really want to give you a heads up on that July 1 date. That we are also going to simultaneously publish that on our webpage. So we're actually going to extend the time period that the comment period usually runs. Usually it'll be from that July 15th to the July 16th date. We're going to start it early at the July 1 date. So this industry is going to have a pre-look at the rules before the regular comment period starts. Basically, you're going to have about 14 more days to noodle through the rules. And I think that's a good thing. I think with the changes we're looking at making, we need to have that time to really go through it. And then August 29th, we'll meet again, and that's the meeting that we will say, we make a recommendation, you the advisory board, to have the commission adopt these rules. And then at their September meeting, they will take up the rules, and they'll probably have an effective date that will be either October 1 or November 1, but we're getting on with the work that we need to do. The work groups are critical in this process. Today, if you are not on the work group for education and examination or whatever, you need to listen and provide your feedback to say, oh, whoa, I'm looking at this color-coded document. I want to make sure you guys are also considering X. This is your time to weigh in on the work groups you're not involved in. Does that make sense? Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, it's an aggressive schedule, but we need to get some work done, and we appreciate the commitment that everyone has. We will get to the end of the meeting and confirm the dates. We'll see if that fits everyone's calendars. We can flex those dates, the April 29th date and the August 29th date and the June 24th date, one way or the other. So we'll be able to work on those a little bit, okay? And,
I'll get strat planning.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Want to make an advertisement for our strat planning process. We have a very robust process that we engage in. It's resulted in an excellent plan for the last, well, ever since Brian and I have gotten here, but often here instead of voting often. And it's at that time that we get the good ideas, much like the idea we heard this morning in public comment, that will help us improve the processes for the program. So look forward to seeing everybody at those meetings.
And the announcement for the rules being published, the announcement for the strategic planning process, we'll send those out on our listserv. So if you're subscribed on our email notification system, then you'll receive those. And that's the best way, and we'll also announce it on Facebook as well. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I will come back and give you contact center statistics a little bit later on. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Our next item is E2 Compliance Division.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Kathy Phillips with the Compliance Division. Make our report on some of the projects that we've been involved in. One of the unfortunate things that we have to do sometimes is assist when a school closes. We always hate it when a school closes, but the process can go one of two ways. Either the school does everything that needs to be done and the students all get transferred, or we have to get involved. And here lately, it seems like we've had to send out a lot of documents for the school, and we've also had to file bond claims against their bonds to pay some of the, refund some of the student money. But, so that's something that we've done at least 3 or 4 times since we've been here at TDLR. So it's kind of a process, and we wish we didn't have to, do that, because we hate to see everybody, the ones closed, but we have. We've also been able to work with the advisory board groups and working on the rules and the law, and, well, primarily the rules, because the law can't change till legislation. But that's been an interesting work, and I know you guys have worked really hard, and we've enjoyed the conversations back and forth. We've also assisted other divisions with complaints and on-site visits and helping licensing, understand the program a little better. And probably one of the most interesting things we've participated in recently is that we've been able to assist the Texas Rangers and the Department of Justice Inspector General's office in doing some investigation of driving schools. So that's been a interesting process to work with people who carry guns. So, but that's some of the things that we've been able to do since we've been here. Gay?
We remain open to any opportunities for public outreach, like conventions, meetings, things of that nature. So if you have anything that you would like for us to attend, you can send an email to Yvonne Lopez, and we'll be happy to attend those. In November, Kathy and I attended a human trafficking awareness training presented by the Office of the Attorney General. It was very interesting. If you have any information about a potential trafficking situations, you're encouraged to call the hotline, or you can visit the Attorney General website and just search for human trafficking. It's a pretty rampant thing going on in Texas, so it's interesting to read about that if you have time. In November, December, and February, we attended coalition meetings that focus on different agencies working together to improve safety for all transportation system users. And statistics, we don't have any data to report at this time, but we'll include those in any future reports as they become available. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you so much, Gay, Kathy. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Next item is E3, Education Examination Division.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman Benavides and advisory board members. As you know, I'm Carrie Hodges. I am the team lead for the Education and Examination Division for Driver Education and Safety. To start off, I want to thank all of those that have been on the subcommittees for the rule revisions. I think it's an amazing blessing to have historical knowledge as well as new innovative knowledge to help bring these rules to where they can actually benefit the entire industry. It's been a really interesting process and a very fun process for me because I like being on the forefront as well. We know that the next step is to review the rules and see where we can go from there. Is there anything that we forgot, anything that we want to add? There was some really good comments in the public comment that we are definitely going to take to heart when we go through the next rule, the next subcommittee. And so we're really looking forward to that. Ray and myself, Ray Pizarro, he's the director for E&E. We actually have several speaking engagements scheduled over the next several months. We are going to go out into the field and really tell the industry and a lot of it, and it's actually for CE, for continuing education, and tell them who we are as TDLR, what our functional alignment is, what we are here to do in order to benefit the industry, and for what the industry can do to help us benefit them. We're really excited about that. We're going to be traveling really all over Texas, up to Lubbock, down to the valley, east to west. We're going to be everywhere, so we're really excited about that. Also, the driver training consists of many pieces, as you know. You have instructors, you have different courses, course providers, what's a PTDE course. There's a lot of things that especially the public really doesn't know how to get to when they need to find somebody to help them with either driver education or driving safety. Teresa Alvarez with our IT department has been working with us to actually create a new website, or actually a new portion in our website that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm putting a lot of that on her shoulders, but she is an amazing person, and she has worked very hard, and her team has worked very hard to get this website up and going. We just recently had a meeting, I think it was yesterday, and we're seeing a lot of really exciting things. We want something, very quick, one click, that when you go to it, you're not like, okay, what am I supposed to be looking at here? It's actually a very, very good website. It's going to be I think, very beneficial to the public. And there's a lot of components to it, a lot of pieces, but I think it's going to come together nicely, and I think our timeline is about, hopefully within the next few months, to actually get it up and running on our site. I don't want to hold myself to that, so don't quote me on that, but that's as Brian said earlier, we move fairly fast at TDLR, and we pride ourselves on that because we know the best thing that we can do is assist the public, and so we're really excited about getting this website up and going.
And Carrie, if I can interject, Brian Francis, really what we're talking about is a search engine within the existing website. So instead of having those static pages that are up there, looking at a search engine that the person can say, I want to find a parent-taught course. And now they drill down, they can do the location, they can, and if it's a traditional
Yes.
course, they can look at that. So it's really a search engine that we're going to make a little bit more user-friendly and give the customers the ability to really find what they want and drill down to.
It's very true, and like I said, it's going to be an amazing site. We're really excited about it. The final thing is we are actually finalizing our steps for the inspection processes of all new schools and periodic inspections of driver education schools. Recently, Marco Rodriguez, who is over our inspection team, and Ray and myself traveled to Houston, and we inspected about 4 new schools, and it was a very eye-opening process. Actually, while we were there, we actually stopped at 2 barber schools, barber cosmetology schools as well. And it's very interesting that even though they are a completely different industry, the inspection process is quite similar. It was very interesting for me, being on the curriculum side of it and doing all this part of it, to actually go out and look at what they're going to be looking for. These are all, like I said, it's a very preliminary process. We're still paring down our checklists. We actually worked really close with Gay and Kathy with compliance to redo our checklist for what we're looking at. We want to make it as easy as possible for the new schools. We don't want to be in there for 3 to 4 hours. We realize people have jobs and they have things to do. So we want to make sure that we're going in there, checking what is required by statute, and then leaving. We know, like I said, you have things to do and we have more schools to look at. So we're really excited about this process. It's some things that we'll go over in the rules, but it's definitely some things that we want to add in our rules, and so are actually propose to add them to the rules. And that'll of course be decided on the board or the commission. But I think that's all that I have for today, or for right now. I'm here for any questions.
I've got a question, Kevin Knapp.
Yes.
Just, and maybe I should direct it to Kathy or Gabe, but is there a compliance list that we as operators have access to?
There is a compliance list. What we look at as far as what we're looking for is our checklist. Is that what you're asking for? We do have a checklist that we go out, and that's what we're looking at when we go out to an actual school.
Right.
I don't see a problem with you getting a copy of that. It's part of public knowledge, and so if you'd like a copy, I can definitely send you one.
I mean, I'd love one, but maybe everybody might.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, like I said, it's not huge. We actually pared it down from what it used to be, just so, again, we're not in there for 3 to 4 hours. We're actually in there seeing the stuff that's required by statute, and then we're going. But yes, I'll get with Ray, but I don't see that being a problem sending that out.
That'd be great, thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Brian Francis. One of the things that we do for the other programs is we have the checklist on their webpage. So for cosmetology and barber salons, it's out there. So we'll do the same thing for your program as well.
This is Carlos Reyna.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if this is
the place to ask the question, but since we're talking about the website, is there going to be the ability to order certificate numbers through the website? Are we
Yes.
ever going to get the
Actually, we
credit
just-
card system updated to where people, I've been asked a lot of questions about this. by-
We've actually been doing testing on the, it's been built, and we're doing the internal testing to make sure that, I mean, we're down to using fake credit card numbers. I swear, it's not illegal. But basically making sure that all the bugs are worked out before we actually release it to the public. But yes, that is coming very soon.
Thank
And we're excited about that, I'm sure as you guys are as well. Any more questions? All right. All right, thank
Carrie.
you.
Thank you so much. Next item is E4, Enforcement Division.
Board members, I'm Robert Rennick from the Enforcement Division, and I'm one of the prosecutors. Let's give you a very short presentation on what we've been doing lately. The most important thing, I think, is meeting in a subgroup for the purpose of going over criminal conviction or proposed criminal conviction guidelines. We met in late December and discussed a number of options as far as creating criminal conviction guidelines for this program. And then we met again in early February and are, I think, very close to finalizing that. And later this morning, you'll hear from Christina Kaiser, the Director of Enforcement, on the details of the guidelines that we're going to propose for your consideration. In addition to that, the only other thing I'm going to let the board, or make the board aware of, is just the scope of TDLR enforcement activity. I'm going to go over some very few statistics, but significant statistics concerning TDLR. Your program obviously is too new to have many cases filed at this point. But I just want you to know how busy the enforcement.
As well as compliance for our other programs, which we'll do for this program. We also include on the webpage the top 10 violations that are found during an inspection so people can kind of see what the issues are. And we also include the top 10 violations that go through an enforcement case. So over time, once we get some history with the program, we will have those available. And so the industry can kind of get a sense of, this is what they're finding a lot of. I should not do that. Or this is what they're fining people for. I should not do that as well. So it'll give guidance. It'll be a helpful tool for everyone.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning.
Good
You're with
morning.
licensing or still enforcement?
Licensing.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you. Agenda item E5, Licensing Division. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. I'm Chloe Whalen, licensing manager for the licensing part of the instructors and certificate orders. So for your updates, we have updated the parent talk packets this week, and they are going out. We are a little hesitant on taking out that part, only for those individuals that do not have internet access and are still ordering the paper copies. So that's where we are with parent talk packets. For online certificate orders update, we are currently working on that. We have 3 schools that we're working with on the outside for the testing. We did our internal testing. We found a glitch, so we're not ready to go live yet. We are working on that diligently. I've been working on it all week. So I was hoping to have some exciting news to say, yes, we're ready to go, but no. So we're working on that. My other update would be for forms. We are currently working on a project to revamp them. They will have a new look. So we're working on that, and they will go out soon. What am I missing? I believe that's it. The other part of my report would be the statistic numbers that are before you. So if you have any questions with that, just let me know.
I had a question, Ricardo, Chair. In regards to the applications, I've noticed that we're missing the driving safety renewal application. It just doesn't exist for the schools
For
on the website.
schools,
It just doesn't exist there. I know that we have the renewals for the instructor, driving safety, driver's ed, but we're just missing for the driving safety renewal application and its accompanying forms.
just for the school?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's a couple of forms. The staff roster is also missing. We have the multiple classroom location form That
I
doesn't
can get-
exist?
I
You just
can
can't
work with,
find it at all?
Education, and we can get those out there
Thank you
for
so much. Thank you, Chloe.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that we had received a question from Glenn
Oh, no.
regarding the renewal
Just-
notices.
Just Glenn Winningham, the entire DS 200 packet, which is the school, the original application for a driving safety school packet, which consists of the staff sheet and the
That's
multiple
right.
classroom sheet, that's missing from the website.
Okay.
So it's DS-200.
Carrie, are you writing this down?
Yes, they are.
This is Carlos Reyna. I was going to ask a question. You mentioned that the PTDE packet, you're sending it out because not everyone has access to a computer. Are people ordering these online, or are they ordering them in writing? And my
They'll
suggestion...
sit in paper form.
In paper form? Okay, because my suggestion was going to be that those that order paper form, send them the list. Those that order it online shouldn't need one.
Yeah, we get quite a few paperwork orders. Are there any other questions?
Thank you so much, Chloe.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay, our next item is F, discussion and possible actions to recommend approval of the criminal conviction guidelines.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm Christina Kaiser. I'm the Director of the Enforcement Division here at TDLR. For this agenda item, you have before you a draft of criminal conviction guidelines for the Driver Education and Safety Program. That's agenda item F. The guidelines are used by the agency in determining when an applicant should have a license denied or revoked on the basis of their criminal history. If they decide they might want to deny or revoke a license, then they will open a case for investigation and give the the inspectors, I'm sorry, I cannot talk today, the investigators detailed instructions about what they want. That may include getting certified copies of court records to reflect the conviction, getting copies of police reports, actually talking to the applicant about the criminal history, and more importantly, in many cases, what have you been doing since you got out of jail? Talking to parole officers or probation officers to determine the person's compliance or not with any type of supervision that he is under. Ultimately, the prosecutor makes the decision whether or not to deny or revoke someone's license. If we do decide that that's the route we're going to take, it doesn't stop there with the prosecutor. It's not like, okay, we're going to deny you, get out, have a nice day. There's a full range of due process that then kicks in and is available to an applicant. If we issue a letter that says we're proposing to deny your license, the applicant has the opportunity to request a hearing and to contest that matter. If they do that, the case is set for hearing before the State Office of Administrative Hearings here in Austin. And the judge in that case, which is known as an administrative law judge, or ALJ for short, will issue a proposed decision. And then it's still not even final then, because that's a proposed decision, which then comes before our commission for final decision at one of the commission's regular meetings. So that was one of the things that I think in the beginning I did not make clear enough with the board that, you know, the decision doesn't stop with the Enforcement Division, not by a long shot. And if you have watched any of our commission meetings, you'll see that on every agenda, some of the enforcement cases are these kind of cases, the criminal background denial or revocation type of cases. So even after the commission makes a decision on a person's license, the case is still not finished if the applicant wants to continue to push it. They can also seek judicial review up in district court to further, you know, contest the matter. So many opportunities for due process and many opportunities for the applicant to affect the outcome of the process by taking full advantage, starting way back there with the investigation. So there are several laws. Are there any questions about that before I start talking about the laws? want to make sure you guys are pretty clear on what the process is. Okay. There are several laws that give us authority to deny or revoke a license based on someone's criminal history. There is a provision in the statute for your industry, Chapter 1001 of the Education Code, stating that the agency shall revoke or shall deny a license if the applicant has been convicted of certain crimes under certain circumstances. That shall is hugely significant. Shall in a statute means that the agency has no discretion. So in those cases, there is no opportunity for a hearing. There is no need for a discretionary decision by a judge or by the commission or by the district court. The shall revoke or shall deny is what we call a revocation by operation of law. It's just done because the law says it's done. So that sounds exciting, right? So the statute says it's at 1001.2514B of your statute. And it says the executive director shall revoke or shall deny a license to a person who has been convicted of one of three kinds of crimes. The first is a felony under Title V of the Penal Code. Those are crimes, there are a whole bunch of those, but they are serious crimes. They include things like murder, human trafficking, sexual assault of a child, aggravated assault, injury to a child, and indecency with a child. So those are some of the bigger crimes that we do see on occasion in other programs. So that's the first category. The second category is an offense requiring registration as a sex offender under the Code of Criminal Procedure. That category also includes a lot of really serious crimes, many of which also fall into that first category. There are things like sexual assault, indecency with a child, sexual performance by a child, possession or promotion of child pornography. Those are just some examples. And then the third category is an equivalent offense committed under the laws of another state. So those are a big deal, right? Those sound like, yeah, we want to be denying license to people who have this kind of a criminal history. But it's not quite that easy under the language of the statute because there are some conditions that go along with that. That shall deny or shall revoke only happens if all of these conditions are satisfied. The first being the victim of the offense had to have been under 18 years of age or enrolled in a public school at the time of the offense. So that's condition number one. This whole provision about shall revoke or shall deny only applies to driver education instructor applicants, does not apply to driving safety instructor applicants. And finally, the whole provision does not apply if more than 30 years have elapsed since the crime and the person has completed all terms of the order entered upon conviction. So when you break it down and look at all of the details that hang on, you know, all the conditions that are attached to this shall deny or shall revoke, it's not quite so easy. So definitely if we see someone with one of those crimes who meets all those conditions, that's an easy, you are denied, go away. But I don't see that that's going to happen very often because of the factual details that have to be there. So there's another law that is our general authority for denying licenses based on criminal history. It's Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code, and this is not specific to TDLR. Chapter 53 provides this authority for all regulatory type agencies. So in addition to your statute, the very specific provisions in your statute, Chapter 53 gives us broader authority to deny people's licenses. It means we may deny people's licenses for other types of crimes in addition to those listed specifically in your statute. And I want to emphasize the word may here. You know, under your statute it was a shall, but here under Chapter 53 it's a may. And we, you know, one of the things that we pride ourselves on and we have been commended for by the state auditor's office, the legislature, et cetera, is that we take very seriously the responsibility of a case-by-case analysis of someone's criminal history. We don't like to impose the drop dead, you got this, you're out of here type of analysis, because the person's crimes are only one part of the analysis. What they've done after that to contribute to the world, to better themselves, to make amends with their victims, et cetera, all of that comes into consideration. And plus, simply the passage of time. How long ago was that crime? That's a big deal too. So very much a case-by-case discretionary analysis, and I feel like I'm safe in saying that our leadership expects us to you know, deny the people that need denying, But if someone has a lesser criminal history and they've shown themselves to be contributing to the world, we want to let them have their license and get on with things. So under Chapter 53 then, let me just give you a few comparisons. Remember, under the language of your statute, there were those conditions that were attached. So under Chapter 53, someone who was convicted of one of those really bad crimes, like aggravated sexual assault, we could still deny that person even if the victim was over 18 years of age or was not enrolled in public school. You remember those conditions applied under your statute, but under Chapter 53, that's a bad crime, even if the victim is older, so we would still probably want to deny somebody for that. So that's part of what we could do under Chapter 53. Similarly, under Chapter 53, a driving safety instructor could be denied if they had those kinds of serious crimes. Remember, that provision in your statute doesn't apply to the driving safety side of things. And finally, someone who was not actually convicted but was placed on deferred adjudication for one of those serious kinds of crimes could be denied under Chapter 53, whereas we couldn't get at them under your statute because it specifically states convictions. So the provision in Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code that we rely on is Section 53.021A. And I'm sorry, normally we would have this stuff up on the smart board, but the smart board is tied up by somebody else, and so we don't have that at our disposal right now. 53.021A states that the agency may, again may, suspend or revoke or deny a license to a person who has been convicted of, and then there are 4 categories. The first category of crimes is the one that we rely on the most often in our criminal history cases. And this says a crime that directly relates to the duties and responsibilities of the licensed occupation. Remember that language, directly relates, because that is the whole point of why we're here today. The other categories, we also rely on these, but we find that if a crime falls into one of these other categories, it's also going to fall into the directly relates. So that's why I emphasize that's the one that we rely on most often. The other categories include crimes that were committed less than 5 years before the date of the application, crimes listed in Section 3G of Article 4212 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. These are, again, the worst of the worst types of crimes, like murder, capital murder, indecency with a child, aggravated kidnapping. So a lot of redundancy between these different provisions we've been talking about. And the final category is sexually violent offenses as defined in the Code of Criminal Procedure. And those, again, include indecency with a child, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, sexual performance by a child, aggravated kidnapping committed with the intent to violate the victim sexually, and on and on. So between those 2 categories and the ones we talked about in your statute, there's really a lot of similarity, and they are pretty much the worst of the worst types of crimes. So I asked you to remember that directly relates language. These guidelines that we have in front of you today, these are our effort to express to the world, these are the categories of crimes that we believe are directly related to this occupation. That's the whole point of this. They are intended to put the industry on notice, put would-be applicants on notice that if you have this type of criminal history, you may be subject to denial or revocation of your license. They are also used in every criminal history case where a hearing is held. There is analysis by the judge of these criminal conviction guidelines in comparison with the person's criminal history and other factors that are listed in Chapter 53. And finally, there's a practical reason as well, an administrative reason why we need to adopt these. Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code requires us to. There's a provision in Section 53.025 of that law that requires the agency to issue guidelines that state the reasons a particular crime is considered to relate to a particular license. So it's kind of all tied up together, but you know, these are our effort to do just that. So are there any questions about that? I would like to now kind of move into a discussion of the actual draft guidelines that are in front of you. Are there any questions about any of that sort of history or background?
This is Kevin Amp. I've just got a question. We're talking about driver education, driver safety. What about parent taught? Is there anywhere that we're going to be discussing like the possibility of parents not being able to teach their kid because they had a DWI back when they were 18 years old or something like that. I mean, that just comes up all the time. So,
There are some provisions in your statute that address, a person should not be teaching a parent-taught course if they have certain crimes.
right.
However, at this time, TDLR is not conducting any kind of criminal history check, and I will ask my bosses to jump in if I speak wrongly. I don't anticipate anything along those lines in the parent-taught realm.
That's correct. The way the statute's written on the parent-taught portion of it, it says you can't get, the student cannot get credit if you've had one of these elements.
Exactly.
And so that evaluation is done by DPS when they run their criminal background check, like, oh, we've got a hit for DWI, we've got this element, you're not qualified to do it. So it's not, it's very different than TDLR doing a criminal background check on the front end of the licensed instructors or the owners and those folks. Very, very different, but it has the same effect of you will not be able to get credit for it at the end. Your child will not be able to get credit, or your ward will not be able to get credit.
Right. I mean, and I understand that. I guess my question is that something that is going to be reviewed at any time, or?
Kevin,
Probably
we're not going to step there.
Okay.
Just the sensitivity of the state agency doing a criminal background check, and I'm just shooting straight with you, doing a background check of a parent of their child. I'd rather
Right.
DPS make that call
Yeah.
pursuant to the statute than us doing that and saying
Sure.
you're not fit to do your child's education.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay, so the draft that's in front of you, you can see that it's laid out in terms of categories of crimes. Through trial and error with other programs, we have learned that from one jurisdiction to the next, courts will describe crimes very differently in the court documents that reflect a person's conviction. And so we have learned that rather than try to make an exhaustive list of every possible crime, we decided that it's better to describe the crimes in sort of general categories. So you'll see, for example, the first one is crimes against the person, such as homicide, kidnapping, and assault. That is the format in which we have described all of the categories of crimes. And this gives us a little more flexibility to deny or not deny. And the flexibility to not deny is actually the more important flexibility that we need from these guidelines. And then you'll see under each category of crimes, those that are set out in bold, we've listed a couple of reasons why we think that crime that category of crimes relates to this license. And we're speaking here primarily of instructors, because at this time, the instructors are the only ones who are being subject to criminal background checks, the driver education and driving safety instructors. At some point in the future, if we want to have a discussion about extending criminal background checks to the school owners or controlling persons of schools, then we'll need to have a discussion again and talk about if we want to modify any of this. So the first category, crimes against the person such as homicide, kidnapping, and assault. As we go through these, one of the most valuable things that y'all can do for us is help us with the reasons that we have listed under here. Some of the reasons we've listed are just they're obvious things, and some of them are redundant. You'll see some of the same language used under every single one of these categories, and it's applicable, it's accurate, but if there's more detailed or specific reasons that we can use on some of these, please help us out with that. As those are, again, these are intended to put people on notice of what our thinking is, sort of. So under crimes against the person, such as homicide, kidnapping, and assault, the first reason we've listed there different categories together to make this single category, crimes involving the operation of a motor vehicle, including driving while intoxicated, intoxication assault, intoxication manslaughter, reckless driving, and fleeing or evading a police officer. And that, of course, means while using a motor vehicle. The reasons are the instructor-student role, and the licensees teach proper driving. So a person with a history of operating a motor vehicle in a dangerous manner is probably not in the best position to be teaching someone proper driving. Criminal activity of this type involving operation of a motor vehicle reveals a general lack of regard for the safety of other people, and a person with a predisposition to commit this kind of activity would pose a risk to the public. So there's the danger that you're going to teach the students bad things, and then there's also the outward-looking danger of just danger to the public in general if you're out there, especially if you're driving around with a student. And then finally, the in-car instructor license would provide the opportunity to engage in or to encourage others to engage in further similar type of conduct. One of the things we talked about with regard to this category that the group should be aware of is we cannot, under Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code, we cannot deny someone's license because of a Class C misdemeanor. We just can't. It's prohibited. So the general traffic ticket type scenario, that would not be relied upon under this category. This would be higher level criminal offenses that have resulted in some kind of harm or could have potentially created some type of harm rather than a simple violation of a traffic law. So that is all of the guidelines. I am happy to hear any suggestions that you have.
Yes, this is Carlos Reyna. I just want to clarify, so it's kind of public knowledge, that during our discussions, we've always been under the old rule of as long as it wasn't within 7 years, if it's been after 7 years, if you had a DWI, you could be licensed and so forth. And that is being done away with. So this language all of a sudden would scare people if they have a DWI in there. But the way I understood it, it's because it opens it up to make it a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Secondly, where am I going with this? That if you've already been licensed and that 7-year period has been over, people renewing don't have to worry that now you're going to go back and yank licenses because they had one.
Yes, you're
I
right.
just wanted to make sure to assure the public about that.
You're right. Thank you for mentioning that. On renewal applications, one thing that I didn't mention is that on every application, whether it's an original or a renewal, there is a question that the applicant is required to answer about their criminal history. And the first time they apply, we just ask, have you ever been convicted of or placed on deferred adjudication for anything other than for any crime other than a minor traffic violation? But on renewal, we are only asking for them to answer about any criminal activity that's happened since the last time they got their license. So, and that's all that we're going to be looking at, and even if we had, arguably had the authority to look back behind a previous license, that's not a winning case. We're not going to waste our time running down that road trying to deny someone who has had a license, especially if it's been renewed 2 or 3 or 4 times since they got that license in the first place and since that crime happened. So,
Thank you.
are there any other questions?
Yes, Rick Benavides, Chair. I was going to mention, Christina, can we go ahead and just recommend the striking of those 2 items now? Can we move to strike that language that you wanted? Can we do that now?
Certainly. Ultimately, what I'm asking you to do today is to make a vote and recommend that the commission adopt these guidelines for this program. So if you're ready to do that, the striking of those 2 provisions could be included in your motion.
Absolutely. I make a motion to strike those 2 items now and recommend, obviously, to have it voted on the commission. Anybody?
I second that motion.
Okay. Need to make the motion or second?
We seconded it already? Okay.
You want to call for discussion on that?
Why don't we do that? Let's go to
Just
take a...
make sure,
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to take a recess, actually, for about 10 minutes anyway, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I guess later.
I believe one of the new members, Ms. Lark, is here, so that'll give her an opportunity to join.
We're in recess.
out of the statute in the last session, so that no longer applies. So what's going to apply is what we're discussing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. This motion being open, I'd like to,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, call for a vote. My apologies.
can I ask for one other question? please?
Sure, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Clarification.
Sure.
So this only applies to driver education and driver safety instructors, correct?
It's only applying to them right now as a practical matter because those are the only license types in this program that we're checking criminal histories on at this time.
Okay, and then one other question, if you don't mind. So if you happen to fall into one of these categories that you put down, is that a trigger for the agency to not issue a license and then speak to them and see, or is it an automatic denial?
It's only if a person has a crime, a conviction, or a deferred adjudication for a crime that falls into one of these categories, that's just a trigger for us to take a closer look at them and possibly deny their license. But if we seek to deny the license under Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code, there is that full due process that kicks in. Remember, the person has a right to a hearing, commission decision, and then they can even go on to district court and further appeal it if they choose to.
Okay, thank you for your clarification.
Chairman, I have another question.
Thank you. Just go right ahead.
Yes, Nina Saint, does this apply to the drug and alcohol driving awareness instructors?
I'm not sure where the licensing person is in the room. I believe their criminal histories are being checked.
Yes. Yes, there.
Then yes.
Okay, do these apply to public school driver education teachers?
Are they
If-
licensed through our?
If they get a
our
license through us, the answer is yes, otherwise no.
Okay.
But school teachers have, through their regulatory agency, their own criminal history review process, and it has been a few years since I analyzed it, but when I reviewed it, last time I looked at it, it was way more rigorous than ours.
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to call a vote. All those in favor of passing this motion?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Christina. You're going to strike those two items out?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Great job, Christina and Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item is item G, discussion and possible recommendations regarding the following work group reports and activities which consist of the work group's evaluations of the 16 TAC Chapter 84 rules for the driver education and safety program. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. I hope everyone remembers me. I was here earlier.
You look vaguely familiar.
Vaguely familiar. Well, here comes the fun part. As you know, our subcommittees got together, and the subcommittees that we had were for schools and instructors, and that's going to be in green, and all this is going to be on your laptops, or if you have your printed copy from the last time. And then in yellow was continuing education, curriculum, and course providers. As you can see, this is a 117-page document, so we'll be here till probably 9 tonight. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to go through all of this. What I actually did is I kind of went through the document and laid out some highlights of what are some of the major proposed changes that I think a lot of the board and the audience would be interested in knowing. And so if you're ready to get started, we can go with that. I'll let you know the blue is what the subcommittee has proposed for change. Okay? So as far as the highlights are concerned, if we start with really throughout the rules, one of the first things that we did was replaced the words supplied and provided with the words prescribed. It really is just modernizing the language and making it a little clearer that TDLR is not supplying you or providing you with things. We're just telling these are the forms that you need to fill out. We're prescribing. The second one is replacing multimedia presentation clips with video clips. Plain talk. Here at TDLR, we're really into just plain talking things so everybody can understand. So we figured that was one of the best things to do. Take out multimedia presentation clips and just put video clips. The next one was reworded G, and it's actually 84.106 on page 15. I didn't add it all in there, but that's really just to include modern language. That's on page 15. There's several things on that one. Let me get to it 1 second. The rule as it states right now reads, motion picture films, photographic slides, videos, tape recordings, guest speakers, and other instructional material that presents concepts required in the POI, that's Program of Organized Instruction, those that don't know that, may be used as part of the required 32 hours of classroom instruction, etc. That's something that we as the subcommittee, when we get together, you guys can hash it out, figure out if you want to leave it, if you want to keep it. That would, I think, the input that I got from the subcommittee, from actually it was Carlos that gave me the information or made the suggestion to strike it all together, which was that it should be covered in the enrollment contract anyhow. And so, or when you sign up, you should know who you're signing up with, and of course having everything clearly marked on the website.
Yeah, this is Carlos, and I may have a change of mind on that.
That's
I'm
fine.
doing some more research on it, and so when we meet.
Not a problem, and that's the best part about this is we'll definitely have lots of time. Like Brian said earlier, it's a very rigorous schedule, but we will have time to actually discuss some of these bigger changes. The next proposal is on pages 31 through 32. These are our inspection processes. And what we tried to do with our inspection processes is we took a lot of the inspection process from what we do currently in our barber and cause industries. A lot of the language was taken from that current inspection. Some of the stuff that that is covered in here are the inspection frequencies. Basically, we'll do an initial and then a periodic. As Ray would say, our initial inspections or even our periodics are not a aha, I got you type of thing. We're there to make sure that everything's on the up and up. If we see a violation, the violation will be noted and it'll be sent to enforcement. And then at that point, an investigation, if warranted, will be opened. When you see us, we're there to help you, especially during periodic, to make sure that you have everything that's needed. And having, like Kevin, you had mentioned having the inspection online or having that available. Actually, I think Brian mentioned putting it online. That'll be very helpful for all schools to know what is actually required. That scared me. And so,
Chastity, can you increase the size of the font a little bit?
I can't.
A little bit more? We've got some people that in this room that may be up to that level of time in their life.
and Shannon, if you actually want to X out of the navigation, that should also help as well. There it goes. Of course, now I can't read.
Just a little bit more for them.
What did you say?
I think it's better. Okay.
Some of the biggest portions of the inspection guidelines, I say two of the large ones is it would require, the proposal is to require driver education schools, if you don't already do it, a lot of them already do, but an actual driver education school to post your TDLR license for the public view, and also to post the TDLR complaint form, or it's actually a complaint sign that gives the number to TDLR if a complaint needs to be made. That's a current requirement in all of the barber and cause industry, and it's something that we wanted to add to our inspection process as far as driver education is concerned. And again, yes, Ina.
Question, I'm sorry. And we've had that issue of posting everything. We'll have that discussion, but you also asked us to post our last inspection report.
That's a current requirement for the barber and cause industry. If they have, when we come in, we'll actually do the inspection report. One will be left with you, and we will take the other one. If you have nothing wrong, then it'll be blank. And if you had a violation, it'll be listed because it's public knowledge. If somebody wanted to do an open records request and ask for that, we can give that to them. And so we wanted to be as transparent, we wanted the industry to be as transparent with the public as possible, because as you know, parents are always concerned what's going on. What if there was something wrong with the car and I don't know? It'll actually be listed on that inspection.
And I understand that, but the ones that have the clear inspection, but the ones that don't have a clear inspection, they're not gonna post it. So you're making an onerous on the ones that did it correctly.
Well,
I mean,
and it's something that we can discuss in the subcommittee group, and we are completely open to this. Again, these are all just proposed changes. They are not in the rule right now. This is just something that we would like to. School have already been, they will already have been inspected. And so,
I mean, the posting of the school license and the most recent inspection.
well, what we're talking about is the actual physical schools, the actual brick and mortar
But
schools.
if it's for the public doesn't visit that brick and mortar school if it's only online.
Some of them do, but I see where, like, we have, if we have one that is strictly, as we call it, like a storefront, we're still going to go visit that location, and they will still be required at that point to post their license. The license number is posted on their online site, and so that should cover that. But again, this is definitely, we can get more into this to actually hash out those issues. These were, like I said, this is, because we've just recently done inspections, we wanted to put this in there, but this was definitely up for discussion, because, again, we want to do what's in the interest of TDLR as well as the industry.
Thank you.
And so if we go to page 52, this is an overall change. It's proposed simplifying the hourly requirements for a driving safety instructor. The rationale for this was these individuals have gone through rigorous training, and the current required hours pose an undue hardship. If you look right now, currently, for a driving safety instructor trainer, they're required to have a Texas teaching certificate with driver education endorsement and 30 hours of experience. That was proposed to change that from 30 hours to 12 hours. On little I, a teaching assistant certificate and 30 hours of experience, we've changed that to 12 hours, or we're proposing to change it to 12 hours. Triple little I. We're proposing completion of all the requirements of a driving safety instructor and 120 hours of verifiable experience. We're changing that down to 24 hours, or proposing that to change it down to 24 hours. So these are, as you can tell, these are significant reduction in hours. But again, those of you that have that Texas teaching certificate, or you have this, you know what is required of you. You know the training that you go through. You know, most of these folks even have experience in driver education before they go to the driving safety side. So the rationale on this was, why create more of an undue hardship if we can assist them getting out there quicker and helping with driver safety schools. That was that was the thought process. Again, this was something that the subcommittee came up with and has agreed on, but it's any and everything on these are currently up for discussion.
This is Carlos Reyna.
Yes, sir.
Carrie, on that same page, at the bottom of page 51, capital A, we changed the evidence of training from 12 to 6. And if you go to page 52 at the very top, the same capital A, we didn't change it in that paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, because
So it's on-
I had
you said-
mentioned it, but we missed that one.
I see it. I will get that added. Thank you, Carlos. The next change is actually Rule 84.215. It's on page 80. And there's also another one on 84.116, but we're already this far, so we'll just go to page 80. Names and advertising. So this is highlighted and has been proposed to strike from the rule. There is no current statute to support this rule. Additionally, the Texas Business Code 5.053 already covers the use of consent to use of similar name. If you go to register the name of your school, and there is a school that already has that name in Texas, you're required to actually fill out a form through the Texas Business Code, and both parties have to sign showing consent of this name. This is, we were basically wondering, we're not quite sure why it's in the rule. It's been proposed to strike. It is definitely something that we can discuss, but it has been proposed to strike this from the rule. Again, our rationale is if it's already covered under Texas Business Code, it's something that a business owner would have to follow. There's no need for it in, or we feel there's really no need for it in our current rule. The next item would be 84-500, page 104. Now, this is the proposed changes to the parent-taught driver education program. As those of you that are in the that have been in the parent-taught program for a while, and had seen the rules come over from the Department of Public Safety, these are there's a lot more added to this. We're trying to streamline across the entire industry and program with what is required by driver education schools, and have parent-taught courses kind of follow that same requirement. It's again, it's for a fair, consistent playing field, and again, for consistency, these are the reasons these were added in. We were, as with everything, the subcommittee, these are open for discussion. Once we get into our next group, we can discuss these further because there is a lot of change in here. Some of the highlights are rules. Some of the highlights that I've noted is that rules shall be consistent throughout all programs. PTDE parent-taught driver education. We shorten it to PTDE, and licensed schools. We propose strengthening the driver education completion certificate, DE 964 rules, how and to whom they are issued, and protective measures. Proposed allowing the first 6 hours, Module 1 traffic laws of a parent-taught driver education program to be transferred to a licensed driver education school in case that student starts their program with parent-taught, decides after the first 6 hours they'd prefer to go to a licensed school, allowing, since the first 6 hours is fairly consistent across the entire industry, allowing the transfer of those hours. But those would be the only hours allowable for transfer. And I corrected on page 105, I removed driver education school. It said driver education school, but it's been corrected since then. Because like I said, a lot of this was taken from the driver education school current rules and added into parent-taught. Again, there is a lot to go over. If you want to look through it, I'm here for questions, or if we want to wait to the subcommittee group, because like I said, there is a lot to go over. If there's, Nina, did you have a question?
Yes. Did you notice? I was trying to find a page number.
I did.
Page 105.
Yes, ma'am.
I just lost it because I moved my... It's the one talking about email.
That they're allowed.
5, where the parent-taught course provider shall issue and mail or email driver education certificates. Is the email being added to the traditional schools? Also, the driver's ed schools?
That is up for discussion. There's one of the things that we added in, or one of the proposals for the parent-taught is that, let me see if I can find it.
I know in the dark it's kind of...
It is. trying to find the proposal that we had added in here, and I am unable to find where it actually has been laid out, but it basically requires a parent-taught driver education course provider to fill in the DE 964 prior to issuance. They would need to fill in the student gender. There would need to be a signature, the completion dates. They need to fill in all of that information prior to sending it to the student. They would also need to verify that the first 6 hours of their program has been completed before issuing that certificate. And if all of that has been done, they will be allowed to email the certificate. Right now, well, under the current rule, they can email. There's no real rule or anything that governs that. They're just allowed. And that's, a historical reasoning for that, and most of you know that. We would like to actually solidify it more in the rule. We would propose that we add these changes, as I think Nina had put it, to prevent any fraudulent activity, and to make sure that to make sure that the student is actually doing the first 6 hours, and to be okay with emailing. Any more questions on that? Nina?
My question, are the driver ed schools also going to be able to email? Are you going to add that to the rule?
If I'm not mistaken, statute at this point, I think statute says that electronic mail is not considered a secure form, or there's just something in there. And so I know Brian had discussed earlier our strategic plan, and Bill had discussed our strategic plan, and that's something that as what I do, driver education and safety, that I want to bring to the strategic plan is to propose to strike that from the law. So AMI schools or driver education schools, if they want to email the certificate, as long as it's in a secure format and they fill it out properly, then they should be able to email. As from what I know, the Secretary of State, the General
Attorney General.
There you go. The Attorney General.
I've been there before, don't worry, man. It's all good. It's all good.
They allow email. They see electronic mail as a form of secure mail. And so why we shouldn't be able to bring that into the fold of driver education industry and safety industry, I don't want to speak for everyone. All I know is that the subcommittees, that's definitely something that we can talk about as far as the rule is concerned. The issue that I have, the issue that would come up is, right now, if I'm not mistaken, it is in statute that you're not allowed to email, because it's something to the effect of electronic mail is not considered secure. That's not allowed. But if we can bring that in the strategic plan, bring it up to the next session, have that struck, then I would be all in our programs. Proposing change the duplicate instructor license fee to $25. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, it's $8, and the proposal is to make it $25. And then on C13, again, to be consistent with other programs, changing the duplicate driving safety instructor license fee from $8 to $25. Again, this is the only, for now, these are the only fee changes that TDLR is looking at making during during this particular rule change. From my knowledge, if I don't want to speak too much out of turn, if there are any more changes, I'm sure that we'll make the board aware of them. As of right now, that's all the highlighted portion I have. As you can tell, there's a lot more in here, and so I encourage you to go through them. And then when we have our next subcommittee, if you have any questions or anything that we want to bring up and discuss, I encourage everyone to do that. Nina, another question?
On page 32.
Page 32. Yes, ma'am.
Under periodic inspections, A, driver education or driving safety school shall be inspected. Is there supposed to be a number in there, at least a year?
Probably.
Okay. I don't know if it's once a year or,
Yes, actually, I think that we put that in there. We put a year. We didn't actually put a time in there because we wanted to leave that up to the discussion for the subcommittee group to figure out, what you would see or deem as fair and necessary. If I'm not mistaken, the schools are required to be every 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, for Barber and
correct.
Cause?
Twice a year. That's
Twice a year, every 6 months. So twice a year, they're required to be inspected. I don't anticipate that we're going to require that, but we're looking at, is it once a year, once every 2 years? We're not sure, because we know every 2 years is when legislative changes take place, anything statutory takes place. So do we want to do it every 2 years? Again, this is a discussion for the subcommittee group, and then the next meeting we can actually bring up what the subcommittee has decided on. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. I will be here. I'll be here all night. No, I'll be here after the meeting, so if you have any questions, make sure and let me know.
Excuse me, Kevin, Carrie,
Yes, sir.
are we going to get a copy of this
Yes, you
new
are.
revised?
Yes, sir.
Thank
And
you.
there's going to be
You
the
already
highlighted.
emailed it, didn't
Yes, it should be in your email.
You sure
And
we
so-
should do that?
I'm sorry?
You sure?
What was that? I'm sorry?
He's asking if it's statutorily prohibited.
It's a
That's
flat
all.
file. And I'm just kidding. Yes, it's in your email. And so if you have any questions, other than that, feel free to, ask me or email me or whatnot. If nothing else, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman and board members, what we want to do is just to show the work that the other groups are doing. They are in there, they're noodling around, you can see the strikeouts, and when you have it in your hand, you'll have a better sense. We don't want to be there, but the rules pull us right into the desk and the administrative office and literally at the lectern where the person's instructing the course. Get us out of your day-to-day business and only have us focus on the things that are going to make a safer driver. If it's in the rules, and I don't know if you got a sense with Christina Kaiser, she doesn't play. Her group's motto is firm, fair, and consistent enforcement. If it's in the rules, when we start taking over this program, we're going to start regulating it. And you're going to say, oh my God, they're going after nitpicky stuff. We are, because you left nitpicky stuff in there. Don't give us the low-hanging fruit that can make your group, have a burden of having a very involved and engaged, enforcement program. Christina has 31 plus investigators. She has 16 prosecutors. They're twiddling their thumbs waiting to dig off into these rules. Don't make them.
They've got plenty of work.
They got plenty of work. Get into the rules and find out what is necessary to stay in there and what is not necessary. Do not bring the, man, that sure would be good to have that. Oh, it sure would be nice to include that. Those are the things that give regulatory agencies a bad name, and it gives Texas a bad name in terms of having over-regulation. We do not have that reputation. We don't want to keep it in this program. I've got a document that we're going to hand out to you. It's a document that was created by Randy Nesbitt and Pam Legate, who's one of our assistant general counsels. And it just walks you through, it's a primer on how to do the plain talk provisions for rule drafting. It's so easy for people to talk plain talk. Oh, it's plain talk. The fallacy of that is that we actually think we speak plainly. No one says, boy, I'm just a horrible speaker and I make things confusing. Everyone thinks from their perspective that they're a plain talker. They're not. And when we start writing, it gets even worse, because you start going into passive tense and you start getting circuitous, and you want to make sure that, well, the last time we wrote this rule, somebody's going to think this, so you start putting in everything in the rule in that sentence because somebody may think it's something else, and it doesn't make sense. And so plain talk guidelines is about exchanging words, it's about creating white space, and it's about making very definitive statements. A licensee must do X, not a licensee who is trying to get a temporary license must provide information relating to the renewal within 1 year, or else they could be in trouble. No. Temporary license lasts for 1 year. You cannot renew that license. Whatever the provision is, it needs to be a direct statement, so when enforcement's looking at it, they can go after it. When a person's looking at how they can conduct their business, they'll know what's expected of them. So when you get the plain talk guidelines, noodle through it, you're going to find that it includes existing rule language and then suggested changes. This is how it reads today, say it this way. The other principle that I want you to focus on when you're looking at that is too often we will try to preserve an existing sentence and put a word in the middle of it. Sometimes it's better just to strike it through and rewrite it the way we want it to read. Sometimes it's better just to write that whole thing from just a blank slate. So if there are sections that you find, well, we just need to add this phrase in there. Well, think about taking the whole thing out and writing it exactly the way you want the thing to read, okay? So the challenge is, Mr. Chairman, when you go back to your work groups, the comments that Nina was offering are right on point. It's exactly what we want. I am going to challenge you a little bit, Nina, to not ask the questions, but to tell us what you want. So. Yeah, I know. But
You just blew the door off.
I love it.
Okay.
Blow that door off. Well, we didn't put hinges on there anyway, so it should fly off very easily. But this is your opportunity to say what you want. Now, if you're asking the question to get a background of what's going on, that's fine. But if you're asking your question kind of dancing around, just say it. I don't think we should have inspections for more, 2 inspections a year. I don't think that the other group should be able to do email if this other group cannot. Bam, say what you want in here. This is the time to really make those definitive statements and to have some rules that make sense. These rules should look anorexic after we get through them. Yeah. They should be skinnier and they should be tighter. I do not agree with Mr. Barrett's position that the more rules you have, the more you have enforced. I think the fewer rules you have, the more effectively you can enforce. The more effectively. Now you're not looking at everything under the sun. You're looking at the things that matter. And that's what we want these rules to do. So I'm excited about the work. April 29th, if that's the day that's set, will be the next advisory board meeting. At that one, we will go through a more involved discussion on these sections. So instead of it just being highlighted like this, we're going to walk through the sections and really get a sense of it. Because from that meeting, the next one, it's going out to the public. So we've got some work to do in between these meetings. And I'm going to check with Rhonda to see if she has the document to hand out to you guys, okay?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Kevin Knapp, I might encourage everybody, while we represent our industries, I might encourage everybody to take a look at this just like we are. And if you feel the need, make some changes and whatnot, and contact either us or send it in. That's going to help so much during the process. That way, when we come back in April, we will have already heard a lot of your comments, and maybe we will all have already put it into the document. And so you might take a look at that, because you guys are a lot smarter than us sometimes. I mean, we're part of the same industry, but everybody's got their own thoughts and their own ideas. So I just encourage that. I'd be open to anybody's thoughts.
We're going to need
No.
you to
Yeah, it's
go to the mic.
different.
So this document here was just to put out there. Obviously, people are like, oh my God, that's the magical document. It's still in a draft form. It's still green and yellow. If you guys want to get a copy of it, we'll make it available. But at the end of the day, it's actually the rules you have now. Yeah, it's the rules. There's no new magic up in there. It's the rules that you have now. Yes. Forgot. Yes. Mr. Chairman, we've got some magical documents for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, I believe we're ready to go to agenda item H, unless there are board members who want to talk about their experience or things specifically from the work group that was not touched on by Carrie. So if there are members of the work groups that want to provide some feedback or insight, this is definitely an opportunity for them to do that.
Brian, this is Blake Garrett. I have a question. To follow up on what Kevin was saying, because I 100% agree, is the best process for people to reach out to you all or us directly?
I think the
Move forward with
best
that?
process would be to reach out to us.
Okay.
But obviously, if they want to have the conversations and share information with you guys, they can. But this will allow us to distribute the information to the right groups and make sure that all the members of the specific or particular work groups get the information.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask on these words, this is Carlos Reyna, on these words you gave us, is there going to be a spelling test or?
You and I are probably the two happiest folks for spell check being created.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, our next item is item H, recommendations for agenda items for the next committee meeting.
Mr. Chairman, from the staff's perspective, you'll have staff reports. We'll continue to give you updates on the transition, those efforts. There will be an extensive discussion on the different work groups, providing input and feedback on their efforts. The goal of next meeting for the work groups is to have the product after that meeting go to the alignment group. So that's when that fourth work group's going to do its work and start putting all the documents in place. So these three work groups bring their product next meeting, really gets refined, and it becomes the basis for the alignment group to start putting the document together in the format. So at the June meeting, we're able to get that out and published to the world. And then obviously we'll bring you up to speed on any outreach efforts that the compliance staff is working on. We'll continue to bring you up to speed on the efforts we're making for it. So we'll make sure that we get those up, and they should be up and running before we even get close to the next meeting, if not this afternoon. So we're working on that. And that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up, Kevin Knapp, just to follow up on Brian's request, how we felt during that process, I think it's interesting to note, and what we should probably tell all of you is that there were 4 or 5 of us, and we seldom agreed, all 5 of us.
Yeah.
I can imagine there being 400 people, like there probably will be in the process. And so I think the primary word was compromise, and I think we all need to realize that what you...
The 28th, April the 28th?
No. Okay, the only day that week, the 26th.
That entire week is open?
No.
That entire week is open, the 25th
Okay.
through.
Okay.
Tuesday, the 26th, is
Wednesday.
that open?
The 26th is a Wednesday?
Tuesday. No, Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 26th.
I've just got a hard conflict. I can make, schedules are hard, right? I can make almost any day that week other than Tuesday. I apologize.
Okay, back to Monday, which is not good, but
I mean, Monday is hard for the industry, but for this important topic, I can certainly be here on a Monday.
Mr. Chairman, just going with Thursday being a good day, April the 21st is available.
The previous Thursday. How's April the 21st? On a Thursday. Sound.
Looks good to me.
Members?
as long as we can get done quick.
That's great. April the 21st.
I think you're going to have a lot of control over that, Nina.
Okay, I've got it.
Thank you.
I've got an evening meeting.
9 o'clock start?
That sounds
That's
great.
better than the
Okay.
others.
Thank you so much.
The next meeting date that we're looking at, Tim, is June 23rd, available, which would be a Thursday, June 23rd. Is that available?
9 o'clock.
June 23rd, we're trying to see if that's going to be available. That's a Thursday.
Yes.
As well. That's good for me.
Does June 23rd work for the members?
That works for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
June 23rd seems to be pretty good. Glenn?
Would make it.
Hadn't got there yet.
Yeah?
I think so.
That is actually a continuing ed workshop in Houston
Okay.
that I think certain TDLR folks are going to attend. For
And I'm
Region
not aware,
6.
but I feel like we're doing a Jedi mind trick here. We're looking at each other. So is it like Ray and Carrie and those folks will be there? Okay. Well, we'll make sure that one will be here and one will be there. If the board's going to meet, we can do that.
That I'm going to attend?
Okay, that's what I think I needed to hear there.
Okay.
Okay, so
June 16th?
June 16th, does that work?
Also a Thursday.
If I can call from Mexico, I mean.
Yeah, I'll be out of the country as well.
Okay, June 30th, does that pull you back in?
Yep, I'm back.
That works
Okay.
well for
Members,
me.
that's good?
We're on the 30th?
June 30th?
June 30th, sounds good?
Okay.
Will that, excuse me, will that affect your July 1st publishing in the Texas Register?
It will.
It's going to push us back a little bit, just a hair, but that's fine. We're still going to build in the lead time. Texas Register